r/Askreddit. What conspiracy theories turned out to be true? My father, who I previously thought was insane, was convinced the meds the military used to prevent malaria caused serious and permanent behavioral health issues. 30 years later, I was prescribed a different malaria med as a preventative before a trip, and I jokingly mentioned my father's theory to the doc. Mefloquine? Yep, that's actually true. That's why we switched to this one. Edit. The conspiracy part is that the Department of Defense has known for a very long time, at least as far back as the 80s, that mefloquine causes some ducked up psychiatric problems, in some cases permanently. They vehemently denied the issues were caused by mefloquine and instead blamed PTSD, stress, and pre-existing issues. They have since conceded, albeit not formally, that mefloquine causes serious issues and now use doxycycline and Belarone. Now stop angrily memeing me about how this isn't a conspiracy theory. Ernest Hemingway believed he was being followed by the FBI. It was passed off as paranoid delusions by the medical community and the world at large, but the Freedom of Information Act revealed that Hemingway was an amateur agent in Cuba during the war, but also seen as a potential communist sympathizer by the FBI, who did later follow him. It played a major role in his suicide, though obviously there were many other factors. Edited an inconsistent and redundant sentence. The CIA has a special gun that shoots dissolvable darts that leave no trace and cause people to get a heart attack. It was dismissed as a conspiracy theory before the gun actually turned out to be true during a trial where it was demonstrated by CIA operatives. YouTube.com link. Edit. Link. Colombia's government and high-rank military officials killed farmers and poor people just to get personnel promoted and support from people. The bodies had uniforms just like the ones guerrilla soldiers used to wear. People started noticing that something was wrong with these guerrillero bodies when the boots in some of the bodies were backwards and a lot of people went missing from villages. Colombia is super corrupt. I think they even found out recently that the high-ranking military were selling weapons to the guerrillas for cash. Many of the weapons were US aid to the Colombian military. Project MK Ultra. Basically the government was experimenting on people. It is super ducked up. Link. CIA putting LSD in the water supply, except it was only a handful of extremely small, 800 pop, towns in the American Southwest, and the outcome was not, we have a mind control serum, but instead, that deeply troubled a lot of rural elderly people, who had no idea what was happening to them. Imagine drinking a cup of water and suddenly you're on the worst trip of your life. I'm sure a lot of people would think that's awesome, but tripping without knowing why you are tripping would be ducking scary. Drug money is used to rig elections and train brutal, corporate-sponsored dictators around the world. They're trying to build a prison. Governments and corporations are actually spying on us. What's sad about that is when it was revealed to be true, we all just shrugged because it was something we all believed anyway. What's really sad is that Shia LaBeouf outed the entire thing and the audience just laughed at the jokes. 5 years before Snowden. Watergate. It started out as a conspiracy theory, but gained enough evidence to turn into the scandal that we all know today, and spawned unimaginative gate titles for conspiracies until the end of time. SMH. The government is listening to your phone calls and reading personal messages. I wonder if some government agent is reading our personal messages like a TV soap opera and goes AWW. Tom and Jenny are breaking up. This is on a lighter note, but in 2013, during the twerking craze, there was a viral video which featured a girl named Kate in Hella twerking against a doorway. When someone opens the door, Hella then falls on a table with a candle, thus setting her on fire. Not only was it being shared online, but news media like CNN were picking up on the story. While people were having conspiracy theories that this video may be fake, those people were often mocked. Eventually, Jimmy Kimmel came out and revealed that the video was fake and Caitlyn Heller was actually a stunt woman named Daphne Avalon. I love it when news programs feature supposedly viral videos and act like they are taking the world by storm when they talk about how it now has almost 150,000 views. business plot. The 1930s robber barons attempted a violent overthrow of FDR's government with the intention of installing fascism. Smedley Butler, the man they had hoped would lead their coup, exposed them, making them look ridiculous and leading to a cover-up, but nonetheless rendering the plot a failure. They destroyed his career, which never recovered, and he died in obscurity in Westchester, Pennsylvania. There's a good chance that we would have seen a fascist Nazi takeover of the country had one man not sacrificed his career to prevent it. And despite his heroism, few people today know his name. The CIA funding drug smuggling and dealing. And we still don't understand the border situation, which we created, because the SAR, duck it. The government was listening to us. I mean, just a decade or so ago you were called a tinfoil hat enthusiast if you said the government is listening to your BlackBerry. My grandma and great aunt would speak in code to each other because they thought the government was listening into their phone conversations. We rolled our eyes at them, until the Snowden NSA leak happened. The global elitist pedophile ring. This one should have been the least outlandish. It's well known that child sex trafficking, sex tourism and pornography exists, but when you suggest that elites might be involved, it's somehow a conspiracy theory. The CIA kickstarted the crack epidemic that devastated many US black urban areas in the 80s in order to pay for death squads in Central America. There was an investigative series in the mid-90s written by a journalist named Gary Webb in the San Jose Mercury News where he chronicled the CIA's trafficking of cocaine on behalf of the anti-communist Contras in Nicaragua. This got picked up by several other larger newspapers and prompted several official government investigations. The paper got pushback, which eventually led to them retracting parts of the investigative series, and the official government reports whitewashed the entire thing, and Gary Webb resigned in disgrace. He would later kill himself in 2004. TLDR. Journalist at medium-sized newspaper exposes CIA drug trafficking helped led to crack explosion. The government and journalists from bigger papers destroy him. He dies from 2 shots to the head, which is ruled a suicide. His reporting appears to be mostly true. The CIA added drug trafficking to their playbook during the Vietnam War, or at least perfected it. US troops were also guarding poppy fields in Afghanistan prior to our current opioid epidemic. Operation Condor. The USA financed with money and weapons military groups in all South America to prevent the communism or socialism to impose in any country on the continent. It turns out that they began to establish dictatorships that in some cases lasted for decades, disappearing tens of thousands of people against the regime. One of the most widely known cases, Pinochet in Chile and Videla in Argentina. Not really a conspiracy, but the author of Hunt for Red October got the story of submarines so accurate that the Department of Defense investigated him thinking he was a spy. Playing football causes brain damage. They knew since the 80s, but it was becoming such a juggernaut that they climate change denied it. You know the whole birds aren't real conspiracy theory? Well, it's funny because there was a thing in the 1960s called Project Acoustic Kitty where the CIA wanted to put microphones and transmitters inside of cats and use them to spy on the Soviets. It cost about $20 million and was a huge failure, and allegedly the first cat they wired was hit by a car and killed very soon after they let it go. Now, I'm not saying that birds are being used to spy on us, but it's crazy to think that the government did actually try something like that.